am going to show you a project that my students will be doing called Collective Mural. And I came up with this project when I was in Baltimore. My students did it there with a Keith Haring painting. We are doing Roy Lichtenstein. In fact, the one that I'm going to show you how to do is this one right here, Sweet Dreams Baby. Pow. And but I have 4 of them that we're going to do. Pop, Blam, Wham, and Sweet Dreams Baby. All right, so here's how this works. I'm sure I did not invent this idea, but I definitely had to engineer how to do it because there were no instructions out there on how to do something like this, so I just figured it out myself. So the first thing that you do is you pick a bold painting, and I chose Keith Haring for the last one I did, and I'm choosing Roy Lichtenstein for this one because the colors are really bold and the design is really simple, which is really important. I don't want the kids to get overwhelmed by too much detail in the picture. Here's why. This is actually kind of a drawing exercise that I do with them. I grid off the back of one of these drawings, and to do this you need 2, or one of these paintings I should say. To do this you need 2. You need to have one that is your map for putting the pieces back together when you're done, and one that you cut into little pieces to give to the students. So I already have 4 pieces for some of my students, and so what I'll do is I'll write their name right here and take a picture of it and put it in the art kit that I gave them this week. And what they do is they flip this over, and then on a piece of cardboard that I will give them, we're using 9-inch squares of cardboard. This is just the back of a watercolor block where we used all the watercolor paper, but you can use any kind of cardboard as long as it's pretty sturdy. Look at that. I can't bend it very well, so I have tons of cardboard boxes, and I've been collecting them from people around the school. I'm using, watercolor blocks. You can use the anything that's, it needs to be sturdier than a cereal box. Cereal box is not quite sturdy enough because they're going to be painting on it with acrylic paint. They're going to have to paint it white and then do a drawing of what is on this square. And do you see why I do this? You may have had your students, or you may have done this yourself, do a grid drawing where you grid a piece of paper and grid a picture, and you draw in each square what is in the corresponding square in the photograph. Well, with this, they're just doing one square. And my idea is to trick them into drawing what is actually there by making it completely unrecognizable. So this is a little brain trick where none of my kids are going to say, "Oh, I can't draw whatever," because they don't know what that is. It's just lines, shapes, shadows, and colors. That's all it is. There's nothing complicated. There they might be able to see parts of letters, but they're parts of letters. They're not faces, hands, or anything that's recognizable as something that they would consider complicated to draw. So you need cardboard. To set this up, you need a sheet of copy paper. And since we're doing 4 collective murals from 4 different paintings, Pow, Blam, Wham, and I've already forgotten what my other one was. Oh yes, here it is. Pop. So obviously this is a pop art unit because Roy Lichtenstein is our exemplar. And as I cut the pieces out towards the end, I'm going to show you that later, I tape them onto these pieces of paper, and then I write the student's name on it. So the student who gets this piece of paper will be responsible for doing 4 cardboard squares with these 4 paintings on them. after all of the students complete all of the squares, then I hang them up in the school. And I've already gotten permission from my principal to find big areas to hang these on the wall, and I just use, masking tape on the back of the squares to stick them up and reassemble them. And that's why you need one of these, because I don't think this is even from this particular work, but this is square A3, this is square A3, so I will put that third in from this side, fourth in from that side, and I'll assemble all the rest of them. So there's C2, C2 will go there, B7 will go on another mural because this is not the piece that I did it for, C2, C4, and so on. So this is your map for reassembling your paintings. Okay, so I'm going to put these out of the way. The first thing that you want to do is take one of your one of your paintings, and you need a pencil to do this, and you're going to figure out how many squares can I get out of this. So if it's 7.5, I want things to be easy, so I think I'm just going to cut a 1/2 inch off of this side right here, just to make things easy. So that doesn't have a point on it, so I'm going to use my mechanical pencil here. So now I'm going to make marks at every 1 inch spot. Now it doesn't matter, I don't know if you noticed that some of these squares are smaller than the others. The reason is because this one was more easily divisible by 1 inch. This one was more easily divisible by whatever measurement this is. What is it? Oh no, this is 1 inch. This is what, 1 1/4. So it just depends on your picture. It doesn't matter what size these are, as long as these cardboard squares are all the same size. So what we're blowing it up to is 9 inches across the board so that they all fit together perfectly. Okay? So for this one, it's just going to be 1 inch, and I'm going to cut the right hand extra 1/2 inch off. Here's my 1 inches, 1 inch marks, and if there's black there, I just make it longer. Okay. All right, now I'm going to draw lines. I'm going to connect the dots as I tell the kids. Okay. And just like so. In case you're wondering about this music, I am using YouTube's royalty-free station for personal videos. I have no idea who this is. I think this is the Happy Hip Hop something or other. I don't know. If you just go to Google, if you go to YouTube and type in the search bar royalty-free videos, royalty-free music for videos, you'll get a handful of channels. And the reason I'm telling you this is because if you were to just play the radio in the background even, you would be liable for Harry Fox dues to the music industry. And what teacher can afford to do that? All right, now I'm going to cut that extra 1/2 inch off. There. I'm going to go ahead and cut that border off while I'm at it. I'm going to throw these strips into the paper recycler. All right, now in the other direction, I'm going to figure out, do I have an even distribution? I do not, but I do have a design down here that will allow me to just get rid of that bottom 1/4 inch. So I am going to make 1 inch markings. looking for a place where I don't have a lot of black to cover up my marks. Oh, there's a black mark, so I'm going to make it long. Okay, and then I'm going to come over here and do it again. It's very important that you do it like this. You do the top, and then you just slide your ruler down this way. The reason is, if you do it this way, look, I've got a quarter inch difference. It's going to be wacky. So you want to make sure that your dots are going to line up. So you just slide it to the bottom. Now here I go with my 1-inch marks again. The kids have such a hard time doing this sometimes. Sometimes I have to make that one that long so I can do it. All right, and then I do the same thing in this direction. Now, when I am teaching grid drawings, which I'll do a video about another time, I actually do have the kids do the grid themselves. The reason I'm doing this is because I don't want them to know what it is that they're ultimately painting. I want them to, because it's like magic to both them and to me. When they don't know what it is they're painting, they actually do a really great job, and they lose all of their inhibitions about, oh, I'm afraid, I can't do it, I don't know how to draw, I fill in the blank, whatever it is they think they don't know how to draw. When they're doing it from just these little squares and they don't know what it is, for one thing, there's this fun little piece of anticipation, which even the coolest kid will enjoy, even if they pretend not to. And for another thing, it's like a surprise, and they want to see it finished, so there's a motivation to finish the piece. All right, so I have all my grids. Now I have to do the same thing on the back. And the reason I have to do the same thing on the back is because I have to number these, okay? And actually, I could have gotten away with just numbering it on the back, but the reason I do it on the front and the back is because I need to see where the image falls. If I had done this on the back without looking at the front at all, then I might have let that extra 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch take off something really crucial to the finished image. In this case, it wouldn't have probably, but anyhow. That's why I do it this way. I mean, I suppose you could figure out your, the piece that you want to cut off and just cut it off and then flip it and do the measuring, but, I just have this really bad habit of creating extra work for myself, but either way you do it, it's fine. All right, here we go. And look, what do you know? It doesn't matter because it matches perfectly. All right, so now we're going to go in this direction. In case you're wondering, the music is playing in the background in my classroom. I do not dub it in later because it just feels weird to be sitting here in abject silence talking to strangers on the internet. You can hear me, but I don't have your company. And so I like to put on the music. It also gives a little energy to the video. The reason I'm telling you all this stuff is because if you too are an art teacher who is like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm going to do for remote instruction while schools are closed, these are just some ideas for you for how to do this. I'm making this video with a hover cam, which I think you can see right here anyway. But I also have an outfit at home that allows me to, it's one of those clamps with a bendy neck, and it will hold on to my cell phone, and I can use it at home to make videos just like this. with my cell phone camera, my smartphone camera. So that's something that you can do too if you don't. You could even do that at school with your home equipment. And at some point, if you want to know what equipment I use, just ask me in the comments and I will write it down for you. I don't have it here, so I can't tell you what it is right now, but I'll write it in the comments for you. Okay, so now we have to grid our picture. Now, why, you ask? Are you starting from the right and moving to the left? This is not Hebrew or Arabic language that we're dealing with here. So why are you writing right to left? The reason is because when I go to assemble this, this will actually be left to right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's a problem I ran into when I first did this project years ago. I got all of this stuff numbered, and I realized about halfway through creating my squares that when I put it together, it was going to be all out of order and scrambled. And I had to print out my pictures again and number them again. So that's why you want to go right to left, so that when you are looking at it from the front, it's really 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? So I just work the rows. Sometimes I lose count while I'm doing this, and I have to do it again. It's particularly easy to lose count when I'm talking, but so in case you're wondering why we're doing 4 of these, is because I want to put them in 4 different locations around the school, so that we have these huge Roy Lichtenstein paintings to look at as we go around the school. And they're of a style that is really popular with kids anyway. They love these comic book styles, so it's art that they can enjoy. And it'll be about at the scale of a real Roy Lichtenstein, because he used to work in really huge scale. Oh, see, I did it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See, that's what I mean right there. And that's why I work in pencil. All right. Oops, I just keep wanting to write H. Now, if we were not social distancing right now and the kids were allowed to come in here, I was going to make this kind of like a puzzle where they had to figure out which painting these go with, because I already showed you they all look the same from the back. Once I get them cut up, how do you know which painting is which? So that's a really good question, but this is the first time I've ever done 4, and I thought it doesn't matter. They will figure it out. It'll be like doing a Rubik's Cube. All right, now I cut these out. And when I cut them this way, I can take 2 or 3 at a time. Just grip on them, grip them really, really tight so that you don't have wonky cuts. Okay, there's my pile of little pieces. What do I do with the little pieces? Well, now I'm going to put them on these pieces of paper. I'm going to just sit this right here on top so that I have room to work. I also want to show you what I did here. I've got all this tape already attached to the edge of my table so that I can just quickly, I tore it off ahead of time, so that I can just quickly grab a piece of tape and tape it. Okay. All right, so this one already has 4, so it's going this way. Here's one that needs 1 more. Doesn't matter which one I put on there. Just want to fill these up. Doesn't even matter if I get the tape on top of the lettering because masking tape is semi-transparent. I suppose they would call that translucent, wouldn't they? Whoever they is. See, doesn't matter. Here, this kid's got an easy one. Whoever gets that is going to be thrilled. They just have to do yellow all over. Now, in case you're wondering about touching this paper during the time of social distancing, everything that and I want you to know that I am not a medical professional or a health official, but I have been listening to a lot of educational radio on this topic and also reading lots of articles just to stay on top of what's going on. And apparently, COVID-19 does not last long on porous surfaces. They think not more than 2 to 3 hours, actually. So it's surfaces like this, Formica or plastic, or non-porous surface, metal, plastic, porcelain, things like that. It can last for up to 2 to 3 days. But Just so you know, I disinfected my table. My hands are so raw from all of the washing that they've been getting, like all day, every day. And but even if some COVID-19, I'm not infected obviously, even if some COVID-19 were to make it onto these papers, the kids probably are not going to pick them up till tomorrow or next week. So it will be dead long before they ever get here. And I only include that because I have a lot of people that I've talked to who are concerned about touching the packets that they make for their kids and then touching the packets that their kids send back to them. And we don't need to be concerned about that at all. We do need to be concerned about good hygiene and sanitation, but we don't need to be concerned about touching the stuff that our kids give us to grade. Oh, these already have 4. So guess what? Some people are going to get 5. So I just work to the end of the pile, and I'll have to draw a number here. I guess I'll do it now. You can see how much faster it goes with the tape already torn. And you also probably get a good idea of how long it took me to do the other 4 sets, because it takes a long time. Alright, so I'm going to go back to before I started putting 5, and now I can. Now the reason that I go sheet to sheet with this is I don't want one kid getting a bunch that that kid could put together and say, oh, I know what we're painting, and then tell everybody. They might guess, they might not, but I want to make it as hard for them to guess as possible. I really don't want them to see the finished thing until we hang it. And by we, I mean me, because the kids cannot help me because we are doing social distancing. Now, I don't think I mentioned this earlier in the video, but another cool thing about this project, and I almost tanked it, because I thought, well, there goes that project. That was a lot of planning for nothing. And then I thought, you know what? While we're social distancing, this is still something that we can do together. I saw a bunch of high school choir videos the other day from schools in Italy and Germany. DoD schools, which if you aren't an Army brat like me, that means Department of Defense schools, for kids of military personnel overseas. I went to one of those when I was a kid in Munich. It doesn't exist anymore because that base was closed back in the 90s. But I digress. The point I was going to make is these choir videos were each kid recorded themselves at home doing their part for the choir piece, and then there's this software which I can't remember what it's called, but if you're a music teacher you know what it's called. It's that it puts all of the videos together, and you have this virtual choir where everyone's singing just like you would in a normal choir, but you're doing it from your home, and then the computer program puts all of it together. Well, that's kind of what this is. This is like the artistic equivalent of that for high school art students. So I thought, you know, this is something that we can do together, just like those choir students did. I'm running out of tape. I hope I don't run completely out of tape. If I do, I'll just quit putting these in. Now, you may wonder, why didn't you speed through all of these long, repetitive parts? Because you can do this along with me without having to pause the video now. And that's another way that we can experience a little solidarity as art teachers. We are hanging out together, making an art lesson. Just like we were at a professional development, only it'd be a fun professional development where art teachers actually make stuff, the kind that art teachers actually like to go to. So, oops. Now, you also might be wondering, did you count these and know exactly how many sheets of paper you needed and how many students you have and blah, blah? No. I just guesstimated that I would have kids do 4, and look, I'm already into 5 squares. And I might end up with some kids that do someone else's squares. You know, if somebody gets behind or they get sick, hopefully just with a cold, not COVID-19, then I can redistribute squares. Also, okay, so now I'm into 6 squares for a few students. Okay. And who do you give the 6 squares to? Your fast finishers, those kids, and you know who they are, so you can do it ahead of time. Those are the kids that are always done way ahead of everybody else in the class. They're like, I'm done, I'm finished. Well, no, you're not. Here, have some more squares. Do some more squares for our collective mural. It looks like I am going to run out of tape. So just for the purposes of this video, I'm going to pretend like I'm not running out of tape when I get through these last 3 pieces of tape, and then I'm going to go on to the little next piece of this, but we're really almost done. We're almost done with the planning part. The only part that's left after this is cutting these cardboard squares. You have to cut these cardboard squares, 9-inch squares, and distributing the materials to the kids. Now, if you watched any of my previous videos, you know that I gave them some acrylic paint and brushes, and those acrylic paint sets and brushes were not only for this project but also for you know, a couple of paintings on canvas, and I'll do a lesson about that too. It's called Painting Party, and I'm going to lead them through painting. A few paintings, actually. They'll get to choose. I'll do 3 or 4, maybe 5 or 6, and then they will get to choose what it is that they want to do. So now what I would do with this is I would, I don't have to grid the front. I would just grid the back like this to match the other pieces that I just cut out. And then I'm done until the kids do the painting, and we hang the mural. So I'll do another video installation where I actually do a sample square. I might even do all of these that are left here so that the kids don't have to do them, so that I don't have so many kids that need to do 6 instead of 5. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you plan a collective mural. I'll have a second video that shows you painting the squares, and I'll have a third video that shows the finished product hung in the school.